going on, guys? This is HDX, and my apologies for the delay of the uploads. I've been a little bit busy as of late this holiday season, but with that being said, January 4th is just around the corner, and you know what that means? It's Wrestle Kingdom! That's right, the January 4th Tokyo Dome event, New Japan Pro Wrestling's huge supercard event in their pay-per-view calendar to begin the new year with a bang, with a fully stacked card and matches that are so epic they will get us on the edge of our seats. And based on where I live, I'll be staying up late for this until the wee hours in the morning for this very event. And for this occasion, I'm making this video to check out New Japan Pro Wrestling's video games for the Super Famicom. Now, if there's two things that go hand in hand very perfectly, and that's video games and pro wrestling. And that's two of the things that I enjoy the most. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, the first game that I'm going to check out is Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling's Chou in Tokyo Dome. Translates to New Japan Pro Wrestling Super Warriors in Tokyo Dome. The first one in the Super Famicom trilogy, and the very first New Japan Pro Wrestling licensed video game. And it was released in 1993. In this game, you only have two modes, the G1 CLIMAX mode and the versus battle mode, where you can play either single or tag. You have 10 playable wrestlers that you can play in this game, including Jushin Thunder Liger, Hiroshi Haas, The Great Muta, Riki Choshu, Big Van Vader, Scott Flash Norton, Tony Halby, Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami, Shinya Hashimoto, and Masahiro Chono. And each wrestler has their own unique set of moves. Personally, I go for Masahiro Chono because I freaking love Masahiro Chono, who's one of my favorite badasses. And once you select your opponent, you'll get this cool ring introduction where you hear no voice because you're playing this at a cartridge, and you get like subtext of the player that you're playing and the opponent that you're facing up against. When this game came out, there were definitely more enjoyable games that came out at the time. However, it's still not bad. Just so you know, most Japanese wrestling games use a time-based grappling system just like Fire Pro Wrestling. So when you lock into a grapple in this game, you don't button mash. You just press the button once at the right time. You just gotta get it right before your opponent does. And during a match, you can only hear the theme song of that said wrestler that you choose while you're playing against the opponent. And you're going to be hearing this throughout the entire match until it's finished. Like seriously, that is all you're going to hear until the match is over. I mean, like seriously, can you imagine if you hear somebody else's wrestling theme song throughout from start to finish in this match? It kind of gives you the idea of like that person that has that theme song is going to win from the start to finish. I mean, think about it. Do you think a jobber is going to win this match? Hell no! It's the dude that has the theme song. And that's the way it works when it comes to squash matches. The superstar is going to win over the jobber. That's just the facts. But I digress. Now, the wrestler sprites don't look half bad in this game. However, the wrestlers only have like a couple of moves and the animation is choppy. I mean, you don't have like submission ground moves unless you're Masahiro Chono or Scott Norton. It depends on the wrestler that you have. You only get about like aerial attacks. You only get like upper attacks. It kind of depends on the wrestler that what you get. So you gotta make the best on what you got. Now you see that on the butt of the screen, like most fighting games, there is an energy meter and there's a power meter. The energy meter is yellow, and the shorter the energy bar is, the weaker your opponent gets. And you see that power meter, like once you have the energy that goes from green to red, that gives you the indication that you can use your finishing move. The more the power meter is full, the more effective that finishing move is. Especially when you use a submission finisher to the point where they just have to submit. Alex, see right there, Masahiro Chono performed his finishing signature, the STF. And now a submission. And after you win the match, you get this cutscene, just like in Street Fighter 2. Overall, this game doesn't offer too much, and after a few battles, it gets a little bit old. Much like the very first wrestling game at any promotion. Alright, now, moving on. Next up, I'm playing the second of the Super Famicom trilogy titled Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94 Battlefield in the Tokyo Dome. Now, in this game, you have 4 modes, an upgrade compared to the last 2 from the previous game. Now, in Battlefield mode, it's basically an arcade mode where you defeat your opponent, you get your match mode result, you get the Street Fighter 2 style quotes that you get in the end of the match, And then you move on to the next opponent, and you're going to defeat your opponent, and then after you defeat that opponent, then you move on to the next opponent, and then so on and so forth. Now, the G1 Climax is a round-robin style tournament that is named after the very famous annual tournament that is always held every single summer in New Japan Pro Wrestling. A round-robin tournament, or a all-play-all tournament, is a competition when each contestant meets all other contestants in a turn, with winners from 2 blocks wrestling in the finals to decide that year's winner. And the winner of each block is determined by a point system: 2 points for a victory, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. The third mode of this game is the IWGP mode, which is basically a single elimination tournament. IWGP stands for the International Wrestling Grand Prix, which is a governing body for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And in this single elimination tournament, the winner will receive the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt, which is the most prestigious prize in all of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And last, the Versus Battle is a standalone versus tournament where you could play either one player versus a computer, or you could play with a second player, and there's a time limit draw. You can choose the difficulty, etc., etc. In this game, the character selection is expanded from 10 to 20. You still have Hashimoto, Chono, Hasi, still got Jushin Thunder Liger, Riki Choshu, Fujinami, etc., etc. There's new additions including the Steiner Brothers, Rick and Scott, Tiger Mask, Wild Pegasus, aka Chris Benoit, El Samurai. And I gotta say, this roster is absolutely stacked compared to the previous game. And once you select your favorite wrestler to play as, you get this cutscene for the ring introductions and the entrances that you won't be able to skip. You can't press a button and you won't skip. Which honestly, it just drags it even further and further. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love watching the entrances of one of my favorite wrestlers, the Great Muta, as you see here. It looks so awesome. But if I really want to get into the match, I just gotta press the A button and just go straight to the match. But in this game, you won't be able to. Then after that, you get the ring introductions where you get no voiceover from the characters, which when you think about it, it's kind of pointless. If you want to get like real voiceovers, you gotta play the PC Engine CD version. You don't get voiceovers in cartridge games unless you have the technology to do that, but in this here, nah. Visually, the game looks a lot different. In fact, it looks like Super Double Dragon when you think about it, which is really awesome. The animation is sped up, the sprites look more detailed, they look just like the exact wrestlers that you see in New Japan Pro Wrestling TV. The slow, choppy animation, just gone. The energy meter, the power meter system looks a lot more the same, but this time it's in different colors. Visually, the game looks really awesome compared to the previous game. It looks great. Oh, and by the way, you could also play as Keiji Muto. That plays his alter ego, the Great Muta. All you have to do is put on a secret code into the game. Go to Character Select, hover to the Great Muta, and hold L, R, X at the same time and press A. And boom, you play as Keiji Muto. There's some great improvements in the grappling system is that you have a lot more to do and you can even perform them from behind. You can also perform ground submissions now, which is very definitely an important aspect for the wrestling game. So it runs better and the controls are more responsive than the previous game. So when you think about it, I mean, it's going from a slow putt-putt of a car to a high performance vehicle. It's better in every way, even though it's still a little slow. It's still a better playing experience than the previous game that we talked about earlier. Personally, I prefer playing this game much better. I have more fun playing this game compared to the previous one, which is kind of a bit of a slow putt-putt. So basically, this game has fixed a lot of the issues that it had from the previous game. It kind of have a big overhaul, as a matter of fact. Visually different, a much better fighting system, a new and improved stacked roster, a lot of more gaming modes that are fun to play. It still has some flaws here and there, but it's still a decent game to play nonetheless. Overall, if you want to start playing New Japan Pro Wrestling video games for the Super Famicom, I recommend this one first. And now, last but not least, we're moving on to the third and the final one for the Super Famicom. Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 95 Tokyo Dome Battle 7. which came out in 1995. And right here you have brand new modes. You have the same modes, but they also added a new mode. You have the G1 CLIMAX mode, which is a round robin tournament. The IWGP mode, which is a single elimination tournament, just like in the previous game. Battle 7, which is an arcade mode, obviously. Also, they added a new feature titled Battle Royale, not Battle Royale to any of you Fortnite marks. And of course you have the standalone versus mode where you could play either with a computer or that you could play with another player, or you could play with 3 players and 4 players. No, straight up, you can't do that. This one is really a lot of the same as the previous one, however, it fixed some of the problems, so that makes an all-around better game. They made some few tweaks here and there, and it made it so perfect. And in Battle Royale, not Battle Royale, you lousy Fortnite marks, that you can play either 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 players, or with 3 different computers. This game has short, cool entrances, unlike the second game that has long ones that you can't be able to skip. I mean, like, really? Why can you not skip the entrances at this second game? I mean, like, we cannot disrespect the wrestlers' entrances, so that's gonna cut the flow? I mean, like, come on! Now, something that you're definitely going to notice from the start is that the game is a lot faster. In fact, it seemed a little bit too fast at first, but what happened is that I'm used to the slow pacing from the previous game. The controls feel very much the same. One new aspect that you're going to find is that the one that they added a block button, which is similar to the Fire Pro Wrestling games. And that right there is a really cool addition. Like, if you wanted to save some energy, you gotta use a block button. I mean, they didn't add the block button in the previous game, which is kind of a bit of a mistake. I mean, like, how the hell are you going to defend yourself without a block button? I mean, like, come on. If you can't stand somebody like a stalker in social media, use a block button. It's that simple. And I'm playing this in Battle Royale mode, and what you could tell is that you could toss out somebody out of the ring, and that can get themselves eliminated in Battle Royale mode. Just like in the real Battle Royale matches that we see in wrestling. All in all, they made a really, really gratifying wrestling game that you'll able to pick up and play here. And if you're a fan of the Fire Pro Wrestling video game series, I think that you're going to enjoy this one as well. I mean, Super Fire Pro has a lot of features, but this right here is a very entertaining alternative, so I highly recommend this. So now, in conclusion, as far as what I recommend within these 3 games, I highly recommend you start with Battlefield 94 and Battle 7 95, because these are entertaining. The first one that I mentioned, it's too slow. It's too choppy, and I don't recommend that. So go for Battlefield 94 and Battle 7 95. So, time to wrap things up by saying, please give this video a like, comment, share, click the bell notification button after you subscribe button, and signing out. Y'all have a good one, and enjoy Wrestle Kingdom. Itaeyong!